Welcome to the Mack Talks, everybody. I'm your host, Scott Johnson. That is your co-host, Chase Hutchison.
Good morning, guys.
Chase, please explain to everybody what the Mack Talks is all about.
So if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or community leader, the Mack Talks are the vehicle that brings you the stories that you need to hear.
That's right. That's what we do. And today we've got a guest on that Chase is going to go ahead and introduce, as he always does. So go ahead, Chase.
All right. So today on the show, we have the founder and CEO of PatientWisdom, executive in residence at AVIA, founding director of Connecticut Institute for Primary Care Innovation, and professor of medicine at the University of Connecticut School of Medicine, as well as a consultant to major academic medical centers and advisor to truly patient-centered startup companies. Greg has a BA from Wesleyan, PhD in communication from Northwestern, and MS in healthcare delivery science from Dartmouth. He's an entrepreneur, educator, innovator, and thought leader, and we are extremely lucky to have the chance to pick his brain today on the podcast. So, Greg, welcome to the Mack Talks. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks. Hi, guys.
Thanks for coming by and, coming on our show. I really appreciate it. I know Chase has kind of formed a little bit of a relationship with you. So I know that your baby is basically PatientWisdom. So tell us a little bit about what PatientWisdom is about.
Sure. Well, the company's called PatientWisdom because that's all I had in my head when we started it. But we now have three wisdoms, if you will. So we have patient wisdom, provider wisdom, and community wisdom. But I'll tell you quickly about each one. So patient wisdom, what we do is we find out what matters to patients as people using a mobile responsive digital site. We ask them to share what we call stories about themselves, their health, and their care. We boil the information down and get it to every member of their care team who has access to their medical record through the electronic medical record. So their doctor or whomever on their care team can look at this insight summary for 15 seconds, know who the patient is as a person, what's important to him or her, where the patient is on different kind of style and preference meters that we generate out of what they're telling us. And they go in and they do a better job and they save time. And so that's sort of at the N of one level. And at the population level, we're boiling down everything the patients are telling us and getting high-level visualizations to the leadership so they can help the entire organization learn and improve.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
So that's kind of the patient side. On the provider wisdom side, we use the same logic, the same underlying software platform, and we find out what matters to the people on the front line, the people that are delivering care or supporting the folks who deliver care, so whether they're clinical or not, and get that information to the leadership so they can create a more responsive ecosystem. The whole idea there is that if you're paying attention to what matters to the people on the front line, and I mean, the leadership is paying attention, then we're going to be able to close the gap between leadership and the people doing the work. And that will help, obviously, enhance alignment and real engagement, but also address burnout, which is the next big problem to solve in healthcare, and also streamline workflows by leveraging the ideas of the people that are doing the work. And then with community wisdom, we find out what matters to people who live in the community, whether or not they're active patients or even of patients of the place we're working with, the organization we're working with, so we can help them either develop or partner with programs that people would actually use. Writ large, what we're doing is we're working to really transform both the experience and delivery of healthcare by just listening to the people involved, both individually and at scale. So I think of this as radical common sense. I bet we could do a better job if we paid attention to what matters to patients, to providers, to community members, and that's what we're up to.
Yeah, and I mean, I see a need for it, obviously, because as things speed up in the fast-paced world that we live in, doctors are seeing more patients, the nurses are checking in more people. So when you have it directly from the horse's mouth and then boil it all down, like you said, they're able to capture so much more information within a quick glance as to where they wouldn't before. Right. So I definitely see a need for this service. So how did you come up with this idea?
Well, you could say I've been working on it for 30 years.
Okay. You just needed technology to catch up?
Pretty much.
You had the idea. You're just waiting. You're like, this damn technology could get here.
Yeah.
I'll be ready to go. That's
Right.
cool.
It's a
That's pretty
startup
funny.
that took a long time to come to fruition. But honestly,
Sure, it's changed a bunch of times.
well, in the sense
Concept
that
is still the
that
same,
The
but-
concept is the same, but we started the company in the summer of 2015. So working on it for 3.5 years or so.
Yeah.
But it's taking everything I've learned over the last 30 years and putting it together to really create a successful enterprise.
That's great.
And it sounds like the way you came up with it was just common sense. Like you saw a problem in the medical industry, you came up with a solution to solve it, and then you put it out there and made it available to people. Was that it was just, to you, it was just kind of common sense, or did you have a problem yourself that you experienced and you said, hey, I could probably lend a service that will help close this gap?
Well, it's a good question. I think it comes from a slightly different place than either. I mean, it incorporates those, but comes from a slightly different place. So my background in terms of this is I worked for a little while in Boston and New York, and then went to grad school in Chicago at Northwestern did my PhD in communication, and then I went on the faculty at Northwestern's medical school. So it's pretty unusual to have a PhD in communication who ends up being a full professor of medicine.
Yeah,
But
right.
I get that it's weird, but it's good. But my focus was on doctor-patient communication and shared decision-making and that sort of thing. So what I was doing early on, we were collecting videotapes of real doctor-patient encounters obviously with everybody's permission and all that. And this was before smartphones or anything, so that this was literally installing video cameras in doctors' offices and getting consent. But we got about 1,000 encounters from Oxford, England. We got about 1,000 in the States between Chicago and Vermont. And we were looking at what was happening and what wasn't happening and what people thought was happening, which was that whole perception reality thing was amazing. And we then started building interventions to try to ensure or make more reliable the things that needed to happen, make them more reliably happen in encounters. So it really was started with that frame, right? And what we were seeing, and as you mentioned, Scott, the world's just getting busier. Right?
Yeah.
And so what we recognize are a couple of really important things. One is we have to acknowledge we have no idea what patients are going through in their real lives. And oh, by the way, most of the real lives happens outside of the care setting. Right?
Yeah.
So we're really looking at how do we make it really easy for them to share that information. And then we also have to acknowledge that the people that are taking care of patients are running harder than ever. I mean, they're drowning, right? They don't need like another thing to do. So we figured out how to make it really easy for them to get a quick view of the whole patient before they go in, because that's what's missing. When everything feels like a transaction for the patients and for the providers, it's bad for both of them, right? And so if we can say, hey, if you just spent 15 seconds looking at this thing, that, this insight summary where you get this information that helps you do what you want to do, and it doesn't take you 25 or 45 minutes to get this information, it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it came from. It was this realization that we had to make it easy for the patients and easy for the providers to make it sticky, right? To make it sustainable.
Yeah. No, that's great. And are you just in the U.S. or have you expanded internationally?
We're right now just in the U.S., but
Do you have plans
emails
for
I was looking at literally before I walked into your building between my car and here. We have interest outside of the States too.
Okay, that's great.
So
That's
one
great.
of your
Super
business partners I was reading up the bios on everybody on your team and stuff, and he had an idea that was kind of similar to yours, where it was like a patient provider network website where people could go and I guess submit their information, and it was kind of like, I think it was described as like a Facebook for medical companies, right?
Yeah, this is Eric Langshire, who he and his wife Sharon started a company called Care Pages a long time ago. I can't remember exactly when, in Chicago. And it was I think it might be the first kind of social networking site in healthcare. And the whole idea was to, again, the point was to make it easy, right? So you figure somebody's in the hospital, right? And if you're with that somebody, you are reaching out to 50 different people to tell them, here's what's going on, and try to get messages of support or what have you relayed back to the person. And what they did is they created a website so you could send one message, right? And people could send their messages of support back in. And it was, again, it was a simple thing. It was brilliant to do that. And so, actually, interestingly, that you brought that up, Chase, Eric was the first person I told about PatientWisdom. We were taking a walk through Chicago. And I told him what I was thinking, and he literally stopped in his tracks and said, "You got to do this, and I want to help." And I figured, he's seen everything.
Yeah, right. That's a good.
And if he thinks this is there's a there, then this is worth it.
And how many do you have on your team?
Right now, we have 9 full-time and 3 part-time.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
most based in New Haven.
You know what's interesting is that Evan Isaacs, I went to high school with him.
Really?
And I saw him on your website and I was blown away. He was always such a smart kid. But yeah, we played lacrosse together. He was my goalie in lacrosse.
Okay.
And then he played at Wesleyan.
Yeah.
And so I've known him for years. It was so funny when I pulled up on the website. I was like, oh, there's Evan.
Yeah, he's terrific, and he's the youngest member of our team. And I like bringing in people from Wesleyan because that's where I went.
Yeah,
but
nice.
But he is absolutely core, because what Evan does is just to back up for a second. A lot of the information we're creating or capturing from the patients and providers and community members, almost all of it's open-ended, right? So Evan is the lead content analyst. So he is the person who is looking at what people are saying and segmenting their responses into different, what we call thought units, and then assigning a theme and a sub-theme, and when it's relevant, sentiment to each one of the thought units, right? So he's turning all of this rich, information into something that is,
He's the
a
boiler.
digest. He's the boiler. And you're absolutely right. I mean, we talk about this as distilling, right? We use that word a lot. That's exactly what he's doing. And we run all sorts of, because you have to do this on lacrosse goalies, you have to run quality control analysis. And he does a great job. So we're really, really pleased with the way this is working out. And what we're doing, as Evan and other members of the team are working on this, is we're creating training data so we can actually teach a machine to be good at doing this, because everybody's heard of natural language processing. And what we have found is that most of the engines that are available to do natural language processing, they're really good at finding words and counting words, even if they're spelled wrong. They're really bad at assigning meaning to what people are saying. And so that's why we have this kind of tech-enabled human content analysis right now that we will eventually turn into, I guess you would call it, human curated natural language processing. Right?
Yeah, I mean, would that be a form of AI, I guess? Yeah, definitely, right?
Exactly.
So, that's great. So, I mean, I know you spoke about a couple of your team members. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about, your philosophy within business and building your team and growing your team. Yeah. You got a bunch of guys from Wesleyan. Are they from other places as well?
Well, right now we only have one from Wesleyan.
Okay, all right. Trying to get more on the roster.
Trying to get more on the roster.
Always opening those up first.
I have to say that, I've built teams before in, larger organizations, but building a team for the organization, right? When it's your organization, there's nothing more important, and we are so fortunate. I have never worked with a group of people like this, and
that's great.
I really couldn't be more fortunate to have brought these folks in. And so we have folks in engineering. We have a small engineering team, kind of small but mighty. Yeah. and we have to be small right now, right, at our stage, but incredibly well-oiled machine in terms of the way that they approach the work they do, in terms of the agile approach to software engineering. Very, very smart. And then we have a partner success team. They support we call our clients partners, because that's how we treat them. And so the partner success team is working from implementation all the way through, sticking with the partners, through renewals. And it's not just like, oh, we have a renewal coming up. It's like every day they're thinking about, how do I delight this person, these people, their patients, make sure everybody knows what's going on. And we're trying to, kind of grow the team because, as CEO, I've been kind of chief cook and bottle washer, and we need to, we're now in growth mode, so we need to round out sales and marketing and all that. Do more.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've had being an entrepreneur? Getting this off the ground and just being an entrepreneur within the medical field, because I know that in the medical field it can be even more trickier just because of the fact that everything is extremely regulated. And there's a lot of red tape that you have to get through. So if you could just speak a little bit about that, that'd be great. Yeah, well,
I'll start with that last part first. It's extremely regulated, and that's, for better and worse, right? I mean, and worse. I mean, it's not like it has to be extremely regulated. So there's the better too. But that to that point, we have built a HIPAA compliant platform to do this work. And that we take very, very, very seriously. So security is extremely important in terms of the work that we do. The other challenge in healthcare is just the sales cycle is really long. So, everybody can say, well, that's an awesome idea. We should totally be doing that. And then it's figuring out how to bring it on board, because it's not the case that we are just saying we do what you already do better, faster, stronger, smarter, cheaper. Like we're saying, what the reality is, we're doing what you want to do. You're not doing it yet. And so then it's like, how do we find the right way in? And that's that's really critical. I'd say the biggest challenge, or maybe the two biggest challenges, as I think your question through a bit, are one, there's no net. Right. So I would say that I've always been, an intrapreneur, right? When I was at Northwestern and at St. Francis Care in Hartford, we were building things that we knew were going to be transformative, but we had the support of a large organization behind us, right? Here, if it doesn't work, man, it doesn't work. So, and we like to think of it the other way around. Like, if it works, right? But there's the reality that if it doesn't, it's on you, right? And so, it is. A lot of people talk about doing a startup, being an entrepreneur, as being sort of a lonely thing. Kind of is. Like, if people haven't done it before, they have no idea what it's like, because it is a roller coaster. You can go and you can tell people it's a roller coaster, and they're like, "Oh, I bet," right? And it's like, no. It's a roller coaster every day. Within every day, there's like a super peak and a wicked valley, and they usually more than one. Right? And I mean, you're doing this.
You ever see the graph of the life of an entrepreneur? It's like, oh, I did it. We're gonna do this. Right. Oh no, what have I done? Oh, it's like exactly up and down. No, definitely. So that's the experience of the pendulum. When it's up here, you got to think about it when it's down here, and vice versa. So
and you can never stop thinking about it. That's the thing.
Sometimes like you said, going back to what you said in the beginning, like, what's reality and what do we think that it is? That's the only thing that you always have to do, is kind of take a step back and look as well.
Right.
to realize that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
lots of reality checks.
It's a massive amount of responsibility, but that's why it's so important to have a network of people that are supporting you and to build the right team. And it sounds like you guys have an awesome team over there that's able to accomplish a lot with just a little. I think that's like one of the most important parts when you're first starting out as a business, is keeping lean in the beginning and getting your ideas out there. And then obviously with your business, like I thought, if I had to guess, it would be the implementation process of once, okay, you have a client, now you're onboarding them. They're an entire health network. I saw you're partnered with Yale, New Haven, and that's an entire health network. And now you have to go in and implement, your system into theirs. And that's a huge challenge.
Yeah, it's a good challenge though, and I think Yale a couple months ago scaled PatientWisdom across the entire health system.
Yep.
I mean, it was cool yesterday. I had a doctor appointment yesterday within the Yale system.
Oh, cool!
And
you get to be on the other side.
She turned the screen so I could see, and I was like, "You see that?"
Yeah.
So my insight summary was up on her screen, and she knew about me. As a human.
So do you give so is the questionnaire happen before you go into the office?
Yeah.
Okay. And then they have it up. So it's like what you're saying, like it's not your first transaction, more or less. It's not a transaction because you have data about the person.
Right.
So you collect all that on the front end.
Yeah.
And then she comes in and reviews all that with you, more or less?
Yeah, I mean,
or him or her, whoever.
Right.
The nurse
I mean,
may
can review it or just refer to it or what have you. But it literally, I mean, a couple important points. One is this doesn't feel like another survey, right?
Yep.
Because that's not what we're doing. One, we're not asking questions. By and large, they're not. You don't see question marks, So it's really sharing stories. So we kind of give prompts and then cue people how much we would like them to share based on how big the box is. Some people color outside the lines, but and that's okay.
Yeah.
But the idea is we want to get a sense of who they are as people, what's important to them, what they're up against, what they're trying to accomplish, that sort of thing. And again, we boil that information down and present it in that what we call an insight summary, this one screen view that is in the EHR, the electronic health record. So the idea here is that we want to make sure that those encounters are just better.
Yeah.
Right. If you're saying, hey, we're going to work on this care plan, right, and it's the provider's care plan, not and it doesn't take into account the patient's goals of care.
Yep.
We've got a problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because, patients are really good at nodding their head yes the whole time that their doctor or other clinician is talking to them, and then walking out of the room going, I'm never doing this.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because nobody asked, and so we're like just providing that information up front. And it's really powerful.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd imagine it gives pretty good insight into the psychology of a patient, right? So they're sharing stories and sharing bits of information with you, and that will give you a better understanding of their behavior patterns and things like that. But I'm just thinking, like, it almost, to me, it seems like you're gauging their mental health as well, I think. Like, so is that something that you've thought of at all? Like,
yeah.
I find that, I visited a doctor's office before, and when I was a little bit younger, like, they would never ask me about my mental health at all. But now in the past couple of years, whenever I go to the doctor, they go, how are you feeling, mentally, and how do you feel? Like, do you feel depressed? Do you feel this or that? And I felt like that was missing for so many years. So does PatientWisdom address that at all?
I think what we're seeing over and over is that patients are very comfortable sharing information with PatientWisdom, and that gets it over to their provider. I mean, the providers are learning information. It's not just like, oh, isn't it interesting? It's like, oh my gosh, this is changing care.
Yeah.
Right? That's the point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. That's awesome. That's great. Now, I know Chase had mentioned it a little bit within your intro, but so you've always been involved in medicine and within the medical field, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about kind of your background growing up and, what made you kind of go that route.
Well, and first off, to be clear, I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm involved in sort of the health and medical world and
Stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Yeah, right. But I guess, it started, I was always interested in health and medicine, but I'm also interested in, kind of creative endeavors. And when I was at Wesleyan, and I guess this is sort of a typical Wesleyan thing. When I finished, I was like, okay, I'm going to do medicine or film,
Yep.
So, and really worked out. First, tried to work out whether I wanted to go into medicine. So I went up and did research at Mass General, and I had done research in a lab when I was at Wesleyan as well. And decided that I was really interested in the field, but I wanted to do something kind of about health and medicine versus doing health and medicine. So moved to New York and started writing about healthcare, and then went to grad school to study communication with a focus on health and medicine. So then went on the faculty at Northwestern's medical school. So it's, it was a pretty unusual trajectory that's, definitely not normal. But I think it sort of speaks to the fact that I'm really comfortable not fitting in, I sort of like being in between different things and creating a new pathway.
Yeah.
So being the communication person in the medical school, when I worked in New York, I was at a great public relations, public affairs agency called Burson Marsteller, and I, very soon after I got there, I was like, why is there just an account side and a creative side? Why don't you have creative account people? And they were like, because we don't. And I was like, well, now you do. So, right? And so what was great is that if you sort of go for it and say, here's an idea that I think could be powerful. If people are confident enough in you and frankly confident enough in themselves, they let you go for it and try it. And so I learned a ton at Burson Marsteller because they let me do things that, somebody my age and with my experience probably, they wouldn't have let do if they didn't have enough confidence in.
Well, yeah, it's you basically selling them on it and convincing them of it, and them seeing the type of person that you are that makes them feel comfortable in doing it.
Right.
So I'm sure they've had people that maybe wanted to try it, but they didn't feel comfortable with, they didn't feel comfortable with that person possibly. So, but I think that's great. And I think it's awesome how you've helped in a way, like with the program and everything, with PatientWisdom, you've helped in a way kind of like a doctor would almost, to a sense. You're not in there with the nitty gritty, but you're helping the overall industry, which I think is great, which I see as being just as valuable as being a doctor, if not more valuable, because now you're helping all the doctors, which I think it's great. I think it's an awesome idea.
Thanks.
So,
and providing a better quality of care too is your own way of helping people. But so at this point, I usually like to ask a question for young entrepreneurs and stuff. So, my question is always, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out? Who's a young entrepreneur, maybe has an idea that they want to bring to life? What is your piece of advice for people who are taking that route?
I think that your idea may be awesome and may really get you jazzed up and your friends and family, feeling like, yeah, this is really cool. But the key to doing something powerful is to go out and talk to your potential audience, your potential users. Mm-hmm. And if they're like, I don't get it, or I don't, then you got a lot of work to do. And I think that's one of the things that people sort of forget. I mean, I always say it doesn't matter whether you're starting a company or you're just trying to do a new thing from within a larger endeavor, that the best way to ensure you're going to fail is to get a bunch of really well-intentioned people around a table deciding what other people need. So you got to be talking to them. and to really suss it out.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I work with young entrepreneurs, and they come up with these ideas for their business. It's this whole program, and I say the exact same thing. And they're like, everybody loves their idea, like one kid in particular, and he asked me what I think about his idea, and it's almost like, yeah, I like it, but ultimately that doesn't matter. You have to go and talk to the vendors that talk to them directly, because ultimately it doesn't matter what people around you think. If they think it's a good idea, you have to talk to the source that's going to make it all work. Because if they don't know what you're talking about, and it's not something that's easily understandable for them, or you thought they were going to give you something that they didn't give you, and that throws your whole entire plan out of whack, like that's the biggest thing, which is more or less, I guess you would call it basically case study. You have to go out there and figure out if it's needed from the people that actually need it,
right?
Not the people around you.
Right. It's straight up audience analysis. It's the most basic thing. That's what you do, and it's a skipped step for way too many people.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. We're gonna kind of wrap up right now. Chase is going to close us out and give basically your information and some different things, our handle and everything else like that. So really appreciate you coming on. I love your story. I think it's a great story. I think you've really kind of carved out a niche. And we wish you nothing but success moving forward internationally, which I'm sure is going to throw a ton more of different red flags. So it's like, now we figured out how to do it in this country. How do we go figure out how to do it in that country? Yeah. So, but yeah. So
thanks everybody for joining us. If you're looking to learn more about Greg and Patient Wisdom, you can visit their website at www.patientwisdom.com. Follow them on Twitter. That's @PatientWisdom. And you can also find them on Facebook. Just search Patient Wisdom. Greg, thanks for having us. If there's anything else, let me know that we can shout out. For all of our listeners, if you like our content, please feel free to leave us a review on iTunes, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like us on Facebook. Also follow us on Instagram. That's @Mack Talks, @MACK Talks. If you want to give Scott and I a follow as well, on Instagram, you can find us @Scotty_content, and @Chase_Hutchison_, aka Bobby Backwards. That's my nickname.
All right, cool. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay,
Awesome.
guys.